Well, this next presentation, this is one that I am personally very, very excited about. The speaker is someone you guys may not have heard about before. He's not someone who normally sells in the internet marketing type stuff. He's not in the internet marketing industry. He sells in a completely different industry altogether. He teaches men how to get women to approach them, which is kind of a cool, different topic. Now, I had a chance to hear, his name is John Alanis. I had a chance to hear him speak for the first time about 2 years ago. And he gave a presentation that had a couple of things he's been talking about today. And it had such a profound impact on me. I don't think he even knows this. But it had a very profound impact on me and on my business and on my company. And some of the things he talked about are very, things you don't normally think about, people don't talk about. But they're ways to make your customers more attracted to you, to make your customers want to listen to you, want to buy from you over and over again. He's going to talk about ways to get it so that even if you have a little tiny list, how to make a ton of money from that list because they are going to be in love with you. They're going to want to hear from you. They're going to look forward to hearing from you over and over and over again. Like I said, when we started implementing some of the stuff he talked about almost 2 years ago, our sales across the board increased. Our sales from our email marketing, our sales from our sales floor, our sales from everything increased because of what he's talking about today. And that's why when we were putting this together, I said, I really want John to come. Before I didn't have a personal relationship with him, but I'd heard him speak 2 or 3 times and had such an impact on me and my company. I said, I really want John to be here. I want him to speak. And so that's why we are lucky to have him here with us. So everybody, let's stand up and put our hands together for John Alanis.
All right. Thank you very much for that kind introduction, Mr. Brunson. Now, you're not going to have people since they're after lunch get up and jump up and down, give each other hugs and all that stuff, are you? Good. Because you're in the wrong seminar with me if we ain't doing that. All right. What I'm going to talk to everybody about today is my presentation is in a really good place. Not after lunch, but after Mr. Bob Regnerus is the king of leads. By the way, I present myself as the king of let them come to you, so you get one king right after the other. But I am the real king. But anyways, it actually follows in a very good order because Bob talked all about different ways of traffic generation, getting traffic to your website, and getting leads. What I'm going to talk about actually follows right into what you should do with those leads from the moment that you get them right through your whole relationship with them. Because it's actually pretty easy to get leads, okay? But what's really, really difficult is to get them to give you money, not just once, but over and over and over. And so what I'm going to talk about today is probably one of the most powerful strategies that I've ever come across for forming a relationship with customers, not only getting them to buy right at the very beginning, but forming a relationship with them so that they're with you a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, even in, as much as 20 years from now. For instance, I started my business in May 23rd of 2004, and I am still floored when I see somebody that came and opted into my email list in 2004 come and give me money 4 years later who's never given me money before, okay? Well, there's a reason for that, and it's because of the relationship that I foster with them using what I call the secrets of the attractive character. And so like Russell talked about, what we're going to talk about in this presentation is how to make big money with small lists using the secrets of the attractive character. Before I get started, really get into this, I think this is kind of an unusual event because I think most people came to this event weren't most of y'all kind of exposed to some offline marketing in addition to online marketing? Wow. See, that's very unusual in this day and age because most seminars that I speak at, most people have heard about online marketing and things like squeeze pages and Google AdWords and pay-per-click and all this stuff. But when I talk about putting a postcard in the mail, eyes glaze over, people fall over. Well, how do we do that? Well, that's work. It's expensive. It's complicated. And I am primarily an offline marketer. Okay, one of the things that I say, the newest phrase I came up with, just invented it a week ago, a friend of mine asked me, he says, what do you do? I said, I'm an offline marketer, but I do online stuff as well. So what I do is I do online marketing, I do internet marketing while I'm waiting for offline marketing to pay off. Okay? Online marketing is my hobby. All right? Offline marketing is my business. And the reason for that is, I'm going to do another presentation tomorrow, but the reason for that is that's where the real big money is in the offline marketing. And so what I'm going to talk to you about today, though, is something that you use in all forms of marketing, whether it's online marketing or offline marketing, or fax broadcasts, or teleseminars, or cold direct mail, or long copies, it doesn't matter. This is the engine that drives and infuses your business. This is the engine that separates you from just about every other competitor out there and makes it to where nobody can knock you off. Because maybe it's just an ugly rumor, but I've heard that in the world of internet marketing, it's easy for people to knock off your website and steal what you're doing real quick. Is that true? Really? Because in offline marketing, where you got to spend money and there's the appearance of work, that doesn't happen very often. So I really haven't been ripped off by that many people, but I know that online that there's been a lot of people, individuals who kind of let something slip out of their mouth of what they were doing, that instantly 3 days later there were 5 websites that were up exactly like theirs and pretty much destroyed their business. That's a bad feeling. All right? But what I'm going to talk to you about, this attractive character stuff, is actually a way to overcome all of that stuff, to make people want to do business with you above and beyond all your competitors out there because of the personal relationship they have with you. All right? So let's kind of get into this. What is the attractive character? And by the way, Russell and his staff were kind enough to pass out the slides of the presentation I'm about to give you so that you can follow along and take notes and write stuff down as I'm going through it. So that'll be very helpful. All right, what is the attractive character? The attractive character is a voice in which you communicate to your customers and your prospects via all media. The more attractive your voice is, the more responsive your list becomes. Okay, that's a real important thing to keep in mind. If you're dull, deadly, and boring, like most marketers are, they're going to turn you off no matter how good your content is. Content is not king. It's important. You got to deliver good content. But the attractive character, the personality that you give to people is more important. If you think back to when you were in college or high school or grammar school, you don't remember the teachers that were dull, deadly, and boring. They're kind of all blurred together. But I'll bet every single one of you has a teacher, a professor, a coach, gunnery sergeant for some of you, a officer, that you remember because they were almost a larger-than-life personality and you learned more from them and retained more from them than you did from anyone else. And the reason for that is that we are all biologically programmed to respond to people that exhibit characteristics like that. And so the more interesting, fun, engaging, controversial, attractive you are in your marketing, i.e. the further away you get from the dull, deadly, boring, antiseptic corporate environment that so many people are used to, the more responsive your list becomes. And the more responsive your list becomes, and the more they feel they have a relationship with you, the more likely they are to give you money, which is why I hope we're all here, to get money. Now, is everybody here pretty much in information marketing? Or are you selling other products or info marketing? Good. Good. Same for everybody else? We just got one info marketer in the room. Okay. Pretty much information marketing. I am an information marketer. Before I was an information marketer, I was in the art business where I sold these steel metal suns that were cut out by hand. I sold them through Robert Redford's Sundance catalog, and it was the only time I've ever handled manufactured goods, and it's no more. I don't care. Into information marketing for a variety of reasons. But good, everybody here is an information marketer, so a lot of stuff that I have, this that I'm going to teach you, is designed specifically for information marketing businesses. And it's something that you can implement immediately and something that you can implement whether or not you have a large list, a small list, no list, you're just getting started, you're an old veteran, an old hand, it doesn't matter. Okay? So, if you look at most successful information marketing businesses, they are built around the attractive character. Anybody here ever heard of Dan Kennedy? Okay. I've known Kennedy for a long time. I'm a member of his Platinum Group. I've been associated with him since 1998. And the reason I come back and keep giving Dan obscene sums of money is, yes, he gives good advice, but he's also the attractive, grumpy character. Anybody here ever heard of Ron LeGrand? Ron LeGrand's the same way. Even Gary Halbert, as dysfunctional as he was before he passed away, was an attractive character. If you go back and you read all of Gary's old newsletters from 1988 on, they just sucked you right in. Sometimes Gary had nothing to say. Sometimes Gary had some really good things to say. But it was all done in an engaging, attractive, interesting environment. And now the upshot of this is that whenever a communication from those individuals would show up, the first thing that I would do was immediately get it, above and beyond all the other mail, open it and read it. Oh my God, my Gary Halbert newsletter's here today. I got to go read Gary's newsletter. It didn't happen all that often because when Gary sent it out to the end, it was kind of sporadic. Once every 3 months. So Gary lived his character probably a little bit too much. But if you look at the Glazer Kennedy newsletter, when that thing shows up, I'm going to have a stack of mail this big. That's the first thing that I pull out, with the exception of the checks. I like getting checks. Open the checks first. Put all the bills, but then I open it and I read it. Now, every time you read the newsletter, there's a sales pitch in there. All right? Now, I guarantee you people are not going down to the mailbox to open it up and say, let me read all the junk mail. Unless, of course, you're a direct response marketer like me or some other guy that loves direct mail. I want to see what everybody else is doing. Oh, this is good stuff. But with the exception of most of your customers, they're not going down to read their advertising mail. And like Albert says, they sort it over the wastebasket. They're throwing it in the trash. But not like the Glazer Kennedy newsletter or my communications with my customers or something else. It is anticipated and looked forward to because of the relationship. Yeah, the content's good, but hey, listen, I don't need, a 28th way to write another headline because I already got 27, all right? Yeah, it's kind of interesting, but I want to hear what's going on with Dan. I want to hear, did he fall off with another horse? Is he doing something with his schnoodle dog that likes to fly commercial, but that likes to fly private, but hates flying commercial, and all these details. I want to know what's going on. So eased into it with the story, and then you got the content. And so the most successful information marketing businesses that you see are built around this concept of the attractive character. And this attractive character is deliberately planned, deliberately engineered, and there's a lot of things that go into it to create the relationship with the customer list. When I started my business, on my Women Approach You business on May 23rd of 2004. And before I sat down and even wrote a sales letter or did an email, I thought to myself, what kind of character can I create so that I can bond with my customers? And I wrote it out very carefully, what I'm going to call myself, what I'm going to say, what I'm going to stand for, what I'm not going to stand for, to engage the people to read. And it was very, very successful. So I called myself the king of let them come to you. And there was even a lot of thought that went into that name. As I'll talk about as we go through this, when somebody opts into one of your lists, when somebody buys from you, especially if you're an information marketer, they're looking to you as an authority, okay, as an expert. And therefore, they expect you to behave and interact with them as an expert, okay, as an authority. If you don't, they get a little bit nervous. Have you ever been around somebody that, maybe you thought that they were an expert on something, they were an authority, then when you met them in person, they were kind of weak, mild, a little bit wimpy, and you got a little bit nervous because there was a disconnect, there was an incongruency. And so it's a very important thing is that when you're designing your own character, is that it's from a position of authority, okay? Kind of like the uncle that cares about you, or the tough old guy with the heart of gold that's going to get the best out of you, is that people look towards you as an authority and expect you to behave in a certain manner. So I call myself the king, okay, of let them come to you. And I did that very deliberately. One, king implies authority. Let them come to you is probably the unique selling proposition in my business. How to get women to approach you for a date. How to get women to approach you first for a date, no matter your looks, age, or income. That's my unique selling proposition, okay? And so I put that into the attractive character. If I called myself the peasant of make them run away fast, it wouldn't have been so good, all right? Doesn't quite work, all right? And so a lot of deliberate thought goes into creating this attractive character that you then begin to wrap your business around and communicate with your customers in a two-way fashion. Well, really kind of a 1.5-way fashion, because here's what I mean by that, is that I have a lot of dialogue with my email list. I do 2 emails a day to my list. I'm going to talk about that strategy as we go along. So I get a lot of talkback stuff. I encourage my customers to write in. I encourage them to respond to me, okay, because it kind of creates a community. So if they put something in and I like what it is they have to say, then I'll reprint it in an email and give my comments. I do not communicate directly with them one-on-one unless they paid me a very significant amount of money. Why is this? This is a line I got from Dan Kennedy. The guru does not sit at the bottom of the hill. Okay? Guru sits at the top of the hill. You have to work to get to the guru. Okay? And you know you're doing this right is if you accidentally respond to an email or something and you get an email immediately back from them that says, oh my God, I never thought I'd expect to hear from you personally. Blah, blah, blah. Oh my God, thank you for responding. And then they'll always say, by the way, I only need a minute of your time, or if you do it by the phone. By the way, while I got you on the phone, they'll ask you 28 questions that they never would have asked you if you hadn't initiated a personal relationship. And so you want them to feel like they have access to you, but only as a group, all right? Because that's the way an important person behaves. You can't just walk into Bill Gates' office, open the door, walk in, and say, hey, Bill, I'm here. Can I just have 5 minutes of your time? Let me sit down and put my feet up on your desk. Doesn't work that way, all right? And in fact, by the time you ever got to have an audience with the guy, who you would probably feel like is the Wizard of Oz, by the time you go in, oh, Mr. Gates, I'm very happy to see you. I need this, and you're going to use that time because he's been positioned to you as an authority and somebody who is very difficult to get to. So you might write that down and underline it. When you create your attractive character, your guru from a position of authority, the guru does not sit at the bottom of the hill. All right? Very important. All right, so let's kind of get into some of the specific elements of the attractive character. The things really that you're known for. And this is where you start letting some personal stuff out about you. And the way that you do it is in all your communications, in your emails, in your newsletters, even in your direct mail and stuff. The more personal you can get, the better. Now, there's a limit to this, all right? Is you want to let some things out about yourself. But you also kind of want to hint that there's other things about you that are really, really interesting, but the only way they get to know about them is to have a more personal relationship with you. Now, how do they do that? They pay you lots and lots and lots and lots of money to get access to that. Okay? That's how. But the way that you start the relationship is you want to let out some personal things about yourself. So in my list, in my communications, I go back and forth. I will tell stories from my past. I will make comments on current events. I will say things that are out from the norm. And so I know there's nobody on my list in this audience, okay? And if there were to be, it would be for marketing purposes only, okay? It's the only reason. By the way, just as an aside, I certainly cannot mention any names, but you would be amazed at how many marketers get on my list just to check out what I'm doing and then wind up buying something from me and see me at a seminar, pull me aside and say, oh, John, that's some good stuff you're teaching there, buddy. And I'm not talking about the marketing stuff. So, all right. So I wish I could get a testimonial from you, but, we can't quite put your face out there. I understand. But I like to hear those stories, by the way. It's good. Okay. Some of the things that I let out to my list, and I'll do it with emails. I'm a big Dallas Cowboys fan, okay? And so I'm always saying something about the Cowboys this or Cowboys that. If they beat the Eagles, talking a lot of smack, or they beat the Packers, talking, back and forth. Now, I don't make my entire daily email about that in my communication. It starts off as part of that, and then it goes into content. Remember, content is not king, but it is important, okay? So you can't deliver fluff with no content that goes in there. All right? And so what I do is I let out, personal things about myself. So I'll make comments about recently what happened, in the football game or something like that. The other interesting thing about that is what that does for you is it lets you know that, hey, this is a real person writing to me, okay? They're writing. They sat down and wrote a real email to me. This isn't some canned autoresponder that, it's another internet marketer put on his AWeber autoresponder, and I'm getting number 27 of 365 this year. This is a real guy or a real woman writing this to me because they reference something that happened, okay? And so they know, hey, this is a real person that took the time to sit down and write something to me. Now, I'm going to get into the mechanics of this 2 emails a day strategy, or better yet, probably what we called it is large frequency of communication, because it's not just an email, it's in all other media as well. I want to make that very clear. But the point that I want to make is that they know it's you that's writing to them, that you took a little bit of time. Now, this doesn't take a lot of time to do. I do my 2 emails that I send out every day in 15 minutes for 2 of them. Okay, but it is important that they know that there's a real person talking to them. Another thing that they have to know is that you have, some certain quirks and beliefs and stands and positions, that you'll take a position of advocacy on things. And in my list, I'm teaching men how to attract women. And so I have some very strong, very definite opinions on some of the things that happen in culture and society. And so I comment on them. One thing, it's kind of a personal thing to me, but one thing that I absolutely abhor and detest is what happened musically since 1992. Okay, rock and roll died in 1992. All right? I'm a big 80s metal fan because that's when I grew up. When there were the band, larger than life, attractive character bands like Motley Crue and Wasp and, all those guys like that ruled the stage and women were after them. And all that went away and men became wimpy, wussy, and soft in 1992 when Nirvana showed up and killed music. Okay? Now, to a lot of people here in the room listening, that may not mean anything, but to my list it means a lot. Because it's, hey, here it used to be the rock and roll attitude that was very attractive to women. Now we've had this big cultural shift where guys are walking down, looking at their feet, mumbling, whining, full of angst because they were born into prosperity. Oh, how terrible. And so I make it a big point in my emails, to talk about that. I'll go say, hey, look, there used to be a song by this band called Twisted Sister, a little bit goofy, but they had songs like, We're Not Gonna Take It, or we're gonna make it, or shoot them down, or something like that. And then you get songs today with some guy whining that, oh, you're so much better than me, or she's so high above me. Oh, give me a break, I mean, I can't stand it. It drives me crazy. And so that's a very authentic thing that I share with my list. And I actually am pleased to see that I get a lot of young guys come back and say, hey, John, you're right. These bands today, they're horrible. They really suck. Give me a list of bands to go listen to. Here you go, fellas. Go listen to these. Go do your homework. Go get some of the old videos. Watch how they perform. Watch how they walked. Watch how they moved. Watch how they carried themselves. They're not mumbling, looking at the ground, their shoulders slumped and all this. I mean, they're out there larger than life, and they're attractive, okay? And so that's one thing that I share with my list. It's a personal thing, but it touches a nerve with a lot of the guys on my list. And it is relevant to the topic at hand, okay? I do want to make that point, okay? At times you can go off on a tangent. But you never want to go so far off that you're getting away from the core topic of what you're talking about, okay? And so what I'll always do is I may make a comment or say something, but I'll always bring it back to the core topic at hand, and I may put in my emails, okay, how does what I just say have to do with how to attract and keep the woman of your dreams, okay? Here's how it does, and then I'll give some content. And so an important part of the formula is tell a short story, teach a lesson. Tell a short story, teach a lesson, okay? And so you get them in, and you get them engaged with the story, and then what you do is you teach them the lesson. By the way, if you want to see a really interesting psychological thing, next time you're around a group of people, group of friends, everybody's talking, nobody's listening to each other, and you want them to shut up, all you got to do is say, hey, let me tell you a story. And everybody shuts up and listens and looks at you because, hey, we love stories. We want to hear something interesting. Somebody's got a story to tell. I want to hear it, And so the better storyteller you become, the more you get your list to shut up and listen to you, okay? And if they're listening to you, that's when you're able to sell them something, okay? And so telling stories, especially sharing personal parts of your life, is a real important thing. Some other things that I share is I'm a very big believer in physical fitness. I mean, I spend a lot of money on, supplements and staying in shape and working out and all that type of stuff. And again, that's something that I believe in very much, but it's something that's relevant to the topic at hand. Yes, I say my unique selling proposition is how to get women to approach you first no matter your looks, age, or income. And you can do that. However, if you've done something about your looks, you've done something about your income, you may not be able to do anything about your age or your hair, but you can do something about that, then you have a much better chance of success. And so it ties into it, physical fitness. The other thing that does that's very interesting is it also sets up the sale of other products to my list. May not be directly related to the subject at hand, but now I'm able to go out to like a friend of mine, Ryan Lee, who runs membership sites about fitness, and say, hey, Ryan, you want to do a joint venture? hey, I got a whole group of guys that they need to get their butts in shape. Okay, so why don't we do a deal? And so they're responsive to that. Or my friend Tim Larkin, I don't know if you know Tim, he teaches target focused trading. Tim's a good guy. He hates the word self-defense, but it's self-defense. What it is, it's kind of a fighting system. And I think it's a really good thing. It's how to protect yourself, when a situation goes. So that ties in too. So I did a joint venture with Tim Larkin, and we sold a bunch of his systems to my list because I'm able to go in and talk about topics that are indirectly related and I have personal beliefs and stories about, but then I set them up for the sale of other related products, which I don't have to create. So that's good. The other thing too is that I occasionally talk about my military background. I was, unfortunately, I went to school at the University of Texas on a 4-year Naval ROTC scholarship. I was selected to be a submarine officer, nuke power, and 3 months before commissioning, they found a problem with my eyes. So, well, you can't be a naval officer, you got to go be a civilian. So, I got that story to tell too, and I had the time that I spent out in the fleet during the summer. And so what that does is it allows me to form a bond with some of the current active duty military guys on my list, and also form a bond with some of the people that may be in 30 years ago. And so when you let out these particular different sides of yourself, what you're doing is you're creating a bond with different segments of your list, okay? And so, the guy that's a civilian and has never had anything to do with military service may not care about the fact that I was in the Navy. You may not care at all. But he may really like what I have to say about 80s music versus the garbage that came after, okay? And then you got somebody that's, may not care about either of those, but they're really big into physical fitness. They're really big into martial arts. And so what I'm able to do is I'm able to form a relationship with different segments of my list to get them to pay attention to what it is that I have to say. So what you may want to do is sit down and make a big list of all the stuff that you yourself are passionate about, that's interesting about you, that you believe in, so that you begin to let these things out to your list to form a relationship with them. The important thing is that you've got to be authentic, that you can't take something that you don't believe in, that you don't care about, and try to make it part of your attractive. That doesn't work. People see right through it. What makes this so powerful is the fact is that you are authentic. Okay. And I know that's a word that like Forum and Est have stolen and, kind of used a lot. And, but if you look at the true meaning of that word, it's a really good way to describe it. You want to be real, you want to be genuine, you want to be authentic. Okay. You also want to be passionate, you want to be authoritative, you want to do the types of things, you want to be exciting, you want to do the types of things that create a bond with your list. It's very important. All right. I talked about that. It's important to speak in one voice throughout all media. And here's what I mean by that. Is not just an email, but the closer people get to you is that you want to continue to be the same guy. And so if you talk with me one-on-one, if you talk with me in a mastermind group, if you talk to me personally, you're going to get what you're getting from the stage. Now, I may occasionally let a few 4-letter words drop in private that I would never say in public. No, not at all. Absolutely not. Working 8 months in the oil field and then in the Navy and stuff, I never heard a word of anything like that. Certainly not from Gunnery Sergeant Ostai or any of those other fine individuals that I met while I was out. But other than that, is that I'm genuine and authentic all the way through. The people that drive me crazy the most, and they drive most people crazy the most, are the guys and the women that put themselves out as one thing, but by their behavior and their actions turn out to be another. Then people get wind of that, especially on the internet, that they're a phony, they're a fraud, they're not doing business with them. You don't want to be around them, okay? And therefore, you don't want to have a personal relationship with them. Remember, the important thing about this attractive character is wanting people to bond with you and get closer to you, because the more they want to get closer to you, the more money they're willing to pay for access. I mean, that's one reason why, I pay, Kennedy so much money, is that I'm able to pay for access, but also get, the unfettered Kennedy, which has been helpful to my business, but which is also personally entertaining to me, okay? And so that's a very important thing to keep in mind. The more that you bond with them and the more that you're congruent and authentic all the way through your communications with them, the more responsive they're going to be, the longer they're going to stick around, and the more money that they're going to give you. Okay? You want to say things that other people are thinking but don't have the guts to say themselves, okay? Howard Stern, of all people, is somewhat of a master of this. And I'm not necessarily a Stern fan, not because I don't like the guy, it's just I listened to him for a week and it's, oh, I can't take it anymore. But that's just me. A lot of people find Howard Stern very attractive. And, you know, Sirius Satellite Radio giving him $30 million to move his listeners over is certainly indicative of that. But one thing that makes Howard Stern such an attractive character is he will say things that other people are thinking and wish they could say but don't have the guts to say. Okay? And so that's one thing to keep in mind that's really, really important. You know, I'll come out and say, I have no problem saying in my list, you know, I think there's a problem with today's man. You know, all these younger guys walking around shuffling their feet, you know, I think there's a real problem with them. And I think there's a problem in society and how they treat these young guys and what they're expected to do. And I think there's a problem in society and culture and the media. And a lot of people are afraid to say that because it's not politically correct. I have no problem saying that. However, it is also relevant to my list. Okay, I'm not going off and talking about to my list why we should be in Iraq or not should be in Iraq, because although I may have opinions on that, not relevant to my list. Okay, but on society and culture and how young men are being treated and why most of today's women cannot stand today's men, very relevant. And so I'll say what other men are afraid to say. Okay, and it creates a bond. The other point I want to make about Howard Stern for a second is this. Is remember where I said that content is not king, entertainment is. Well, he's a perfect example of that. Because I don't think in the whole history of time he's been on the radio, he's uttered one word of content. Not one. I listened to the guy. I didn't make no money off of him. All right? Except for paying attention to his attractive character, but from no content. Okay? Indirectly maybe, but no. But he got $30 million to go over to Sirius Satellite Radio, because of the entertainment and because of the people that are drawn to him to listen to what it is that he has to say, even if it's nothing. Okay? And he's really good at saying nothing a variety of different ways throughout the whole time of his career, over and over and over. He's said nothing enough times that people will come in and listen to nothing and be happy for it. They'll even pay now to listen to nothing. All right? So it's an important thing to keep in mind. But listening to Stern is actually a very good exercise in developing your attractive character. Okay. Controversial, that kind of goes along with what I just said, is that you do want to be controversial, but you want to be authentically and genuinely controversial. You don't want to be deliberately controversial. And so I know guys that go out and they'll try and create controversy about something that they really care nothing about one way or the other. Well, that's not very genuine, and people tend to pick up on that. And so if you're going to be controversial, do it in a way where you're saying something strong about something that you believe in that's relevant to your list. This last one here is very important, is that you don't deliberately seek to offend anyone. But you're not afraid to offend anyone by speaking strongly on a subject that you're passionate about. I can go out and offend my whole list tomorrow, and they're never going to come back. Okay? I can say all kinds of mean, nasty, hateful, hurtful things. That's not what I mean by not being afraid to offend somebody. You don't ever want to set out to deliberately offend someone, but what you stand for, what you had to say, what you're passionate about, how you defend your position, invariably will offend somebody, and you should welcome that instead of being afraid of it. I've known guys, this drives me a little bit crazy, but they sent out something to their list, and they had 100,000 people on their list, and they got 3 complaints. Well, my message to the complainers is, I don't care what you have to say. If you don't have to say, get off my list, there's an unsubscribe link below. And really, the truth is, we pay attention to the people who give us money, not the people who don't give us money. But I've known marketers that have gotten 3 complaints like that, and then sent out an apology letter the next day. Oh my God, I'm sorry I did this. Well, that's the best way to kill the list, because you were afraid to offend. You really didn't mean what you said the day before, all right? And so you cannot be afraid to offend people by your positions and what you have to say. But you don't want to set out to seek to deliberately offend somebody. And nor do you want to do stuff to the point where it is so offensive that it really hurts your business. Because remember, what we're all here for is the getting and keeping of money, okay? I'll give you an example. This is something that I tested. A couple of years ago, I actually sent something. It was when Bill Clinton was in the hospital getting his heart transplant or whatever it came from running and eating McDonald's Big Macs at the same time. is that he was in the hospital. And I occasionally write about Bill Clinton because if you're a guy that wants to learn how to attract women, whatever you think about him personally or politically, you better pay attention to that man. Because one thing he knows how to do is attract women. So I wrote an email about, Bill's in the hospital. I know where that hag Hillary's away. Is that, he's talking with those nurses. I know Bill's talking to the nurses. And I got a lot of surprisingly negative email and opt-outs about how dare you say that about Hillary, and Bill's a beloved fellow and this and that. Oh, I mean, I'm not going to comment about that again because it was too much. All right, I wanted to try it and see what happened, but it was too much. Okay, and so now we're not talking about that hag Hillary. I do still occasionally talk about Bill, but in the light of, hey, here's the subject matter, here's why you need to pay attention to him. But I know Bill was talking to those nurses while he was in the hospital. I'd have been doing the same thing too. Okay. Another important point is, I'm really glad you had some handouts here, is that you want to know, is that your list needs to know what you stand for in your philosophy. Okay, is that you want to have a consistent philosophy you follow. One of my philosophies that I convey to my list is, it's all your fault, okay? Everything that happens to you is your fault, even if you think you have no control over it, because it's a good mindset to have. If your wife left you, it's your fault. If your girlfriend dumped you, it's your fault. Because what that means is that you engaged in some behavior that created that situation. And if it's your fault, that's really good news because it means that it's in your control. And so you change the behavior, you get a different outcome. Because one thing that I sell against quite a bit are a lot of people that have an entitlement mentality, a victim mentality, guys that say, oh, women just don't like me for who I am. Well, duh. Who would like you for who you are? Yes, she is so much better than you. And no, she does not want to be with you for that reason. Okay, but I convey a consistent philosophy of if you want to get results, it's all your fault, which is good news because it means that it's your behavior is in your control. You can change your behavior, you get results. Now, something very interesting about this, it's all your fault philosophy too, is not only does this apply to the subject of attraction, it also applies to the subject of making money, okay? Now, actually, I'll tell you what the parallels, if you look at what I teach, how to get these guys to attract women, you take that and you take what's taught in a direct marketing course, you're going to see 90% of the stuff is the same. Attraction is attraction is attraction. How you attract women is the same way you attract money. Okay? Sometimes if you attract money, you'll also attract women at the same time. But that's a different seminar. And so what I'm able to do with that philosophy that I'm able to engender and put out to people is I'm also able to say, hey, this part of this philosophy is the core thing we're here about. But there's this other section here, this making money stuff, which is really cool too. And by the way, I got a really good course you need to check out. You might be surprised to hear, but I actually get some pretty decent affiliate commission checks from Glazer Kennedy. I get some pretty decent affiliate commission checks from Internet Marketing Center, Derek Gale's office. Okay, both of those are about making money. But the reason that I'm able to get those checks is I'm able to say, hey, guys, what's going on with these individuals is consistent with the philosophy that I teach you of it's all your fault. Okay? Your relationship situation is your fault. But so is your financial situation, okay? Now, we showed you how to fix your relationship situation. Now, you go follow what these guys have to say, fix your financial situation too. And so when you have an overriding philosophy like that, not only does it attract people to you, but it also sets up the sale of indirectly related items, okay? And so the very interesting thing about my business is I'm able to get customers in at the front end at a pretty decent cost of sale, but then also back in them other products that are not directly related. If you've ever played in the money making or the internet marketing industry and tried to front end and get new customers, without a joint venture, or having a relationship with somebody, it's really difficult to do. There's a lot of competition out there. It's hard to do, but because I'm able to get my customers in at a much lower cost in for a different market, because of the relationship I form with them, now I'm able to sell them other things. Internet marketing and money-making stuff That's all profit to me because I didn't have to put out the huge front-end cost of getting the customer in the first place. And so that's what a consistent philosophy does, is it allows you to set up the sale of indirectly related products, okay? Especially if you have a customer list. I go to any internet marketer, and if I could get them to build a good relationship with their list, I know for an absolute fact, because I've done it with a few of them on a small level, that they could sell dating and relationship stuff. The philosophy of, hey, it's all your fault and we're getting your income situation fixed, but hey, you may have a relationship situation you need fixed. Go talk with this guy, John, okay? It's a very powerful thing because now you don't have to create a bunch of products to unlock the value in your list. All you have to do is go find different joint ventures. Another important part is that you like to have fun, and above all, you're entertaining and you're never boring, okay? The number one sin of marketing is being boring. It's the ultimate marketing sin. And you really have to guard against that. Even I sometimes read my emails, oh, I'm getting a little boring. I need something to spice it up, to keep interest, to get excited. So I'll tell them a story. But that's one thing you have to guard against in all your marketing communication, especially in this day and age. Because here's what being interesting and not being boring will do for you. If you go look at your email inbox, you're going to see there's a mountain of spam. If you go to your mailbox, you're going to see that there's probably a mountain of direct mail. If you check your voicemail messages, there's going to be, everybody today is oversaturated with information. The way that you cut through the clutter and you get your message open and your message read is being more interesting and exciting than all the other messages that are there. Okay? And so you want people to anticipate and look forward to hearing from you so that you'll get your message open. If you don't get your message opened, you won't get your message read. Okay? And so that's a really important part of this whole attractive character thing, is that it cuts through the clutter. The more exciting you are, the more you're going to cut through it. Okay? And so, I know guys, it's interesting. Every now and then I'll get somebody, I actually had a guy print out a couple years ago. He was sending me an order, but he printed out his entire, it was his white list. It was all his Outlook folders. He had all these folders from all these different people that he received email from. All these different newsletters. I recognized them all. This thing was like 2 pages long. And he had all these things. And I guarantee you that half those things he never went in and read. But he went in and read mine because it was interesting and exciting, and then he sent me a check. Okay? And so that's the real important thing about developing this exciting, dynamic, fun, attractive character, is it cuts through and it gets your mail open and it gets it read. The other thing, too, now we're going to start getting into the mechanics of this frequency of communication strategy, is with all the spam filters and stuff out there now, it's hard to get email delivered. It's really hard to get email delivered, okay? But if you're writing to somebody like you would talk to them, like you're going to talk to a friend of yours, you're writing to them in that manner, it's a conversational one-on-one thing, the email more likely than not is going to get through because the spam filters look at it like they would a piece of personal communication. And it is a piece of personal communication between you and 100,000 of your best prospects, customers, okay? But it is, and so it tends to get through, it tends to get treated as and viewed by the people on the other end as a personal communication, okay? And they're going to look at you just like they're going to look at their friend Joe that just sent them for the upteenth time the video of the monkey scratching his behind. They're going to look at you the same thing because it's open, it's exciting. It's what does this guy John have to say today? Well, either I love him, I hate him, but I got to see what he has to say because he's intriguing and exciting. Okay? And so that's what the attractive character does about being entertaining and boring. One other technique, and then we're going to get into one other thing. I'll get into some email specifics. This is a real important one, is that you want to, in your list or your community, is you want to have an enemy. Doesn't matter who the enemy is, but it needs to be an us versus them. Okay, because people naturally split themselves into two camps, an us versus them. And so the more that you position yourself as a member and leader of the usins and sell against the thems, they're going to pay attention to you. Okay, and so what I do is I split my world into talkers and doers. Okay, and anybody that behaves in a manner that I don't like they whine or they freeload or something like that, they're a talker. They don't take action. They don't buy anything. Okay, guys that go out, take action, get results, send me testimonials, buy more stuff, they're doers. Okay, and it's natural, and it splits naturally along lines too. It's a philosophical thing, but I always rail about talkers and doers. Okay, is that this guy sent me this email whining that it didn't get any results for him. He's nothing but a talker, and you don't want to be a talker. Okay, and then I'll get an email from a guy say, "Hey John, I got your system, went out, took action. Here's the results that I got. Man, this stuff is great. Can't wait for your next product." I'll send it out and say, "Look at this doer. He went out, he took action, he got results. Now, this is the type of doer that you should be. He's a good guy, okay? So let me hear from all you other doers." And when you do this enough, what I'll get sometimes is from guys, if I release a new product, "John, thanks for your new offer. I mean, I can't buy it now, but I'm going to buy it soon. I want to let you know that I'm not one of those talkers you talk about. I'm a doer, and I'm going to buy it." Yes, okay, well, that's good. I mean, that's just doer thing. And so what you encourage is this us versus them, okay? Now, it doesn't matter who the us and the them is. I mean, I just kind of made that up. But if you look in different niches, there's a natural us versus them. You look in the diet niche, it's us versus the food companies that want to get us fat. If you look at the insurance niche, it's us agents versus the idiots at the home office. There's always an us versus them that you can find, and you want to begin to weave that into your communications. It's very, very, very important, because if we have a common enemy, we unite together to fight that common enemy. If we don't, we're not nearly as responsive. Okay, it's just it's a facet of human nature and something that you should pay attention to. So whatever it is, okay, real estate investing, well, those realtors are the enemy. Banks are the enemy. Okay, so there's lots of enemies out there. In internet marketing, who's the enemy and who's the big friend at the same time? Google. To a lot of internet marketers, that evil Google came and slapped us all, and now we're not able to get cheap pay-per-click traffic and run. Well, I'm not going to mention that, but anyways, but so there's a natural enemy there. Or in internet marketing, one of the enemies is the gurus. A lot of people perceive there's all these gurus out there with these secrets that they're not sharing that are making all this money and taking us from poor little guys who, are good little internet marketers and spend all our times whining on the forums, and so that these guys are the reason we're broke, okay? Whether or not that's true has nothing to do with anything. The fact is it's a particular belief, and it's an us versus them. And so in each market, in each category that you're in, there's always an us versus them to play upon. And it really focuses people, because people love to be part of a group, even in this day and age, and they want to be part of something special. The us versus them gives an opportunity for them to do that. If we have time at the end, I'll show you an interesting exercise, but I want to get through to some of the specifics first. All right, let's get on to this 2 emails a day strategy. Okay. Now, I really should retitle this the frequency of communication strategy, because I don't want everybody to think that this is an email-only technique. I don't want everybody to think that they should rely only on email. The things I'm going to teach you are as viable in email, print, fax, teleseminar, newsletter, any method of media. It just so happens that, if you're an internet marketer, one of the best ways to get started and one of the best tools that you use is email. And this, to give credit as credit is due, is, something I was clued in on in 2004 by Matt Fury at a dinner that, we had in Phoenix. And he learned about this strategy from Agora Publishing that does their early to rise. And because the deal before always had been with internet marketers was a conventional wisdom was you can do 1 email a week to your list. 1 must be content only and 1 must be sales only. And if you do more than 1 email a week, they will opt out and they will not like you. Well, Matt was listening to the Early to Rise, which is from Agora. Agora is a big company. They're an old-time direct response marketing company. They mail 1 million direct mail pieces a month. These dudes know what they're talking about. And the guy says email your list 2 times a day. So Matt emails his list 2 times a day. Dramatically increases sales. So he tells me about that. I said, well, I'm going to email my list 2 times a day. I don't have a list yet, but when I do, I'm going to email 2 times a day. If there are 3 people on it, there's going to be 6 emails going out. All right? 3 times a day. So Matt was the one that clued me in on this, and he does a really good job with this. Now, the caveat is this only works in the voice of the attractive character. If you are dull, deadly, and boring, the old-time internet marketers are absolutely right. People will not like you and they will leave. If you try and sell them or perceive to be selling them something every single day with not giving them any entertainment, then they're going to leave. Okay? So you have to be engaging and speak in the voice of the attractive character when you're using this particular strategy. Okay? Like I said, content takes a backseat to entertainment and philosophy. And the way to think about this, 2 emails a day. I send one in the morning, usually goes out at around 10 a.m. I send one in the afternoon, goes out around 4 p.m. every single day. It breaks my heart not to email. Now, I'll tell you a real quick reason why. When I first started this, I said, man, maybe I should take a break on the weekends. Too much email. Maybe this is just a little too much. It was a Sunday afternoon. I was kind of bored. It wasn't during football season. So I was like, I got like 400 people on my list. I just got this affiliate email from Derek Gale, or Internet Marketing. It was actually Corey back then. So you know what? Let me send this email out just to see what happens. And so the subject line was like the truth about women and money or something. It was Sunday afternoon. So I sent it out to a list of 400 people. Got 3 sales. $180. Oh my God. 5 minutes worth of work and I made $180. So every time I don't email, I'm losing money. So I said, well, I hate to lose money, so I need to send an email to these guys every single day. 2 emails a day. Now, like I said, it's important to think of this. It's important to do this in the voice of the attractive character, and it's important to think about it not as email, but as a radio talk show, okay? Because think about it. Rush Limbaugh, Howard Stern, whoever else is a big radio personality, what do people do deliberately every day? They got a habit of, they go in, they plop their butts down in their chair at work, they turn on the radio, and they listen for 4 hours every single day to this radio personality. Every single day they listen. They choose to listen to it. And some of these guys have very large listenerships, okay? And so if you think of this 2 emails a day in the context of you're doing a radio show to your customers, it's just broadcast via email, then this begins to make a lot more sense. Because when they get your emails, they say, oh my God, it's, this guy's, boring me to death and he don't unsubscribe. It's time to tune into the radio show. Time to tune into the John show today to see what he has to say or not have to say. Okay? And so when you look at it in that context, that's when it begins to make sense and begins to get very, very powerful. Okay? Like I said, and Howard Stern, even Rush Limbaugh, it's low content, mostly entertainment, and it's recycled stuff that's said over and over and over, yet they got audiences that have been with them 10, 15, maybe even 20 years. Okay? That tune in deliberately every day to listen to what they have to say. Now, have you ever listened to Paul Harvey? Anybody listen to Paul Harvey here? I listened to Paul Harvey when I was a kid. Love Paul Harvey. What does Paul Harvey do? He's on 3 times a day, right? Used to be. But what Paul Harvey does is, he used to have the morning news, a little bit more in the afternoon, and then he'd have his rest of the story. If you listen to Paul Harvey when he did his afternoon news, he'd always read the news, and then he'd say page 2. But before he got to page 2, what did he do? He'd read an ad about the Hoover vacuum cleaner or, the Bose radio system or whatever it was that he got. So people were tuning into Paul Harvey, and I used to love tuning into him. And they'd listen, he'd do his deal, and they'd listen to the commercial too. And then he'd continue on. And so what you're doing in the 2 emails a day is you're mimicking that. And people aren't pissed at Paul Harvey. They like Paul Harvey, okay? Paul Harvey's selling them something. Paul Harvey's getting a big fat check to sell them something. He ain't advertising to them. But people love it, okay, because they've tuned in to listen to that. And so that's what you need to think about this in the context of, is that it's like the Paul Harvey radio show. Entertainment, news, commentary, but also pitch, okay? And the way that I accomplish that is, this is how Matt told it to me 4 years ago and how I still do it to this very day, is I do 1 email in the morning with content and with a soft sell, kind of like Paul Harvey does, which is clearly delineated. And I do have some samples we are going to go over here. And then 1 in the afternoon, which is a hard sell email. Okay, it's a short one. It gets them to go to a website. It makes them an offer. And so the way I look at it is this, is I gave them something, okay, In the morning, I gave them a good tip. I gave them some entertainment. I gave them something with a little bit of a soft sell. Now in the afternoon, I got permission to sell something to them. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. I gave them something, they owe me something, okay? Now, I've tried 3 emails a day. That doesn't work. They don't like that. They'll take 2. Not good enough to be Paul Harvey, but they won't take 3, okay? Now, one important thing about content in your morning email, and that's this, is you want to deliver real content, but you want to deliver such a real narrow slice of that it leaves them wanting more, okay? And so like one thing I'll teach them is that, hey, here's how to initiate a conversation with a woman. You do this, this, and this. But what we don't say is we don't talk about how do we get from the next part that we're setting up an initial meeting, what do after that and after that. If they want to know that, they got to give me money, okay? But they read that small content and they say, hey, wait a second. This guy, John, he really knows what I have to say. If I'm walking down the street and I look a woman right in the eye and I smile at her and she smiles back and I say, well, what are you smiling about? She'll actually answer me. This guy, John, is a genius. Okay? But what do I do next? Well, you got to give the genius money to find out. and so that's the thing, is that you're giving them enough content wrapped in stories and entertainment and fun, enough content to where they know that you're the real deal. They just don't have enough actionable information to go out and get results. I got a lot of guys that are really good going around and get women to smile at them, but they ain't reached out the wallet yet to get to the next step, okay? So they just make a lot of people happy throughout their day, all right? But then I got another set that took action and has gone to the next level and went and bought my product. And so it's a real important thing to include in these 2 emails a day. Is just enough specific content to let them know that you're the real deal, all right? A couple other interesting things about this strategy, and then we'll get into some mechanics. Bob was talking today, Rignaris was talking about article marketing and blogs and stuff. Well, here's the great thing about the 2 emails a day. You got articles every single day. You got blog postings every single day. So my morning email is put on my johnalanis.com website and becomes an article, so that the search engines can go suck it up and look at it. I can have other people go out and post these things as articles at different websites. And so now what you're doing is you're generating a ton of content. I mean, my johnalanis.com website probably has 2,000 pages on there, all right, because automatically every day it's just updated. And so what this becomes is you're actually, creating an email, a blog post, and an article all at the same time. And so you're actually getting 3 times the work for the price of 1, okay? And so when you look at it in that context, it's really not that much work at all. The other thing about doing this, which is really interesting, is it's like doing a physical workout, okay? If you do just the intense 30, 40-minute workout every day, you stay in great physical shape. If you go 3 weeks and you don't do anything, trying to get back into it is really hard. You get sore and you're not as strong and you don't have enough stamina and it's terrible. Well, the same thing applies to being a copywriter, okay? And if you're going to be in this business, it's a good thing to learn the skill of copywriting. You may want to sub it out, but you want to know enough to call BS on some copywriter when they're delivering you garbage instead of delivering you the real deal. And so what this does is that when you're writing these relationship building morning emails and the small lead generation afternoon emails that lead to a pitch, is that you're really honing your copywriting skills. Because what you're doing is if you want to get good at writing, you have to write. And so every morning you're writing something. And so what this does is it forces you to become a much better copywriter. Every single day for my afternoon email, I have to come up with a headline that gets the email opened and read. And it can't be this one that's the day before. So I have to put my mind to work to come up with a headline. And not only that, I have to do it quickly. I got a minute, 2 minutes to come up with it, and that's it. I don't agonize over it. I don't think about it. I do the best I can in 30 seconds a minute to come up with a headline. And so what this does is it forces you to learn how to write copy to time. All right? There's some copywriters out there that are really good, but they need 3 months to write a letter. 3 months. It may be $1 million letter. I can write a lot of letters in 3 months that are almost as good. Okay? And so what this does is when you're doing this thing, a really neat side benefit of it is it forces you to become a good copywriter that writes to time. Okay? The other interesting thing about this is you get feedback from your list. They send things to you, comments and questions, and I encourage that stuff. And so you read it, and so you really get into the heart of what's going on in your list. You really get to know them intimately. Okay, I mean, I know my market very, very. I know what they want. I know what they don't want. And the interesting thing is it's much different from what an outsider would think. All right, a lot of guys think, may look at, you're just teaching guys to, chase women. That's all they're interested in, this and that. That's absolutely not true, and I know statistically it's not true. What most guys want is they want to meet that one special woman with a few adventures along the way. It's what they want. Statistically, I can tell you that. All right, that's reality. All right, they don't want to be the guy who's picking up a lot of different women, every night for 10 years. They're not interested in that stuff. Most of them aren't. There may be a small number that are, but 95%, when they come to get my stuff, they got that one special woman in mind that's been ignoring them, that they think their life's going to be complete. Now, we disabuse them of that and teach them, reality. But there's lots of special women out there, guys. There's not just one. All right? But you get to know your market intimately, and so that you can write really good copy. I know that when a lot of guys come in, that they've just got a few small objections. What they want to know is, where do I meet women? What do I say? Where do I meet them? What do I say? Where do I meet them? What do I say? And so I know I got to lead with that, but then get them excited with everything else that they've told me about that's subconsciously going on in their minds. And the only way I was able to figure that out is consistently on a large scale, reading the feedback of my readers, surveying them, and responding to what they have to say. And so that when you implement this 2 emails a day strategy, it forces you to become an excellent copywriter and know more about your market than everyone else so that you can dominate it, and so that nobody else can knock you off. They cannot knock off your attractive character because it's you. They can't do that. They can't knock off your copy because they don't have a connection with the marketplace, a feel for the marketplace like you do by going through this process. It takes them 6 months to write a letter or an opt-in page because they're lazy. Whereas when you do it every single day, you can write it fast. The other day, I don't know if any of you guys know who Ryan Dice is. Real smart guy, good friend of mine, real good internet marketer. That's actually where Russell and I met. It was a Dice's seminar. Actually, coincidentally, the guy's got an office right across the highway from me. But he called me up. We were talking about squeeze pages and stuff. And I said, I got this opt-in page. It's kind of doing okay. He says, you know what? Let me show you something. I got one that's doing real well. Have a look at it. I don't know how to look at it. So, oh my God, this is great. It took me 7 minutes to change mine and have it up. Okay? It's a good headline. There's a lot of information. And the reason that I was able to do that in 7 minutes instead of 7 days was because of the intimate knowledge that I have about my market. Okay? That I was able to put a headline together, put a few bullets together, slap it up there, and dramatically increase results simply because I've been going through this process. So this process forces you to get in touch with your market and become a copywriter that can't be knocked off. Okay? All right, real quickly, like I said, one email in the afternoon, straight pitch drive to sales letter. It's like a lead generation classified ad. It takes me 15 minutes a day to write my emails. This is not hard copywriting. Think of that you're just having a conversation with your list. People tell me, 2 emails a day, John, that's a lot of emails. Listen, if you sit down and look at the number of emails most people send, 50, 100, to their buddies with no content or no thought whatsoever, people are already doing more than 2 emails a day. Okay, so this is no great shakes. This is just a little time management here. I set a deadline for myself, 15 minutes for both of them. And I stop at 15 minutes. It forces me to become a good copywriter. Okay? Doesn't take much time. Like I said, it's just personal relationship with your list. Now, one thing that I do if I go vacation or I feel a little bit lazy or I just got too much going on is that because I've written so many of them, I go recycle. What does a radio show host do? Well, when they go on vacation, it's the best stuff. And so what I do is, I'll take old content and I'll just recycle it, and it's just as good as new. It's funny because I know that I'll send out an email that I sent out 6 months ago, and I'll get the same response from the same guy. Oh my God, John, this is one of the best emails I ever read. You're really hitting them good today. It's like, well, 6 months ago. But they needed to hear the message again, or they forgot about it and stuff. So that's one thing it's a big benefit. All right, one thing that is great about this strategy is you can use email to set up sales, events, big product launches. big cash flow surges. Like if you look at what Frank Kern recently did or Jeff Walker does with his product launch, this dovetails in perfectly because people are paying attention to you. And so now one of the things that the attractive character does is you hold an event, which could be a sale or prices going up or you're having an event like this one, whatever it is that you're going to do that sets up a big cash flow surge, all right, because they're paying attention. All right, email that is ignored and unopened is worthless. All right. I will warn you again about this email stuff. I like email, but over-reliance on online media in your business is a recipe for disaster. This whole attractive character stuff that I talked about with you pertains to newsletter, teleseminar, direct mail piece, everything that goes out. Because online media historically is very perishable. All right, you look at infomercials. They were legal in the 50s, and they were suddenly illegal. Then they came back, and it was really easy to play in them. Then the television stations figured out they could charge big bucks for these things, okay? And so the cost of media all of a sudden went up. Now to play an infomercial, you have to be very sophisticated. Same thing happened on the internet with Google and pay-per-click. A lot of opportunity in pay-per-click. But recently, all the little people that were making money with AdSense and all this stuff got swept out the door in one day by Google because they just, you're gone. And so anybody this business was dependent on that one media is now having to go get a job, okay? And so, with me, when email goes bad, which it occasionally does, I'm comforted by the fact that I go to my mailbox, I open it, and there are checks. On the day that the postman is too lazy and decides to go to the donut shop, instead of delivering my postcards and throws them all away, I go look at my shopping cart, and I'm comforted by the fact that I got orders that have come in from online, okay, that I get them by fax. And so the thing to do is that this is a strategy for protecting your business against disruption, is communicating with your customers via a variety of different media using this voice, okay? Email is great. I love email, but don't become too over-reliant on it. All right, let's get into some of the mechanics of some of these emails I want to talk about here. Okay, you need to have, first off, a compelling subject line, okay? Secondly, it needs to come from you, from the attractive character. Now, by the way, it doesn't have to be your name. You can create a fictitious cartoon character and use that. And in retrospect, I probably should have done that. I do not think now. I use my real name. It's a good name. But I use my real name. So obviously, I don't think I'll be running for public office anytime soon. Okay? Because I got a lot of writing they can go find. All right? Well, I would say, hey, I'm all about creating relationships, so maybe I am qualified. But it needs to come from you so that it gets identified with you and it gets open. Don't make it come from a company name. Create a character name, whether it's your name or another name, that's going to get recognized and open. Very important. All right, the next thing that I do, and I do have some samples here we'll go over very quickly, is that I'll give a brief intro, tell a quick personal story. I usually say, hey guys, in my morning email, because I want everybody to let them know that I'm talking to them as a group. Sometimes I'll do personalization, but I want them to think that I'm the guy in the front of the room talking to them. I'm the football coach with the team around me. Okay, I'm the battalion commander with the whole battalion around me. That they're listening to me, because remember, we're coming from a position of authority. So I wanted to let them know that I'm addressing them as a group, and let them know that there's a lot of them on there, in case a few of them misbehave, they know they can be replaced. Okay. So it's an important thing. Is I let them know that I'm talking to them as a group. Okay, so I'll say, hey guys, and then I'll tell a brief story. You know what, guys? I was in the gym yesterday, and I was in a good mood till I got in there, and there was this whiny alternative guy whining on the radio in the gym about how this one was so much better than him, and it really made me mad. And here's why. Okay, so I just tell a little brief story. Okay, or I went into the grocery store yesterday, and I was in the meat aisle. And I was looking to get a big T-bone steak, okay, because I may have a little cheat day tomorrow. All right, and this woman walked up to me, and here's what I said. So it doesn't matter. It's some little personal vignette. Used to have an executive officer used to say, sit us down and say, all right, guys, we're going to have a little time for XO's vignettes. And he'd tell a little story, and then he'd teach a lesson. So you just want to have a little story about something that happened personally in your life, okay? Or something that's going on, or a current event, or something like that. And there's a little offset classified ad, which I'll show you when we get to the samples. Then there's a body of the email, and then there's a sign-off for a tagline. I always came on with the fun, all right? Because my list is all about having fun, okay? One thing about attraction is it's got to be fun, okay? And so on with the fun. And so when you put that out there enough, what I get as responses from guys is they'll sign it the same way, or, hey, keep up with the fun, John, or something like that. So they begin to identify, with that little tagline right there. So I sign it off with something unusual. If it's sincerely or something corporate-y, then it's not as powerful. So make it something unusual. I always have the signature of my name, and then the king of let him come to you. Because remember, we want to have the attractive cartoon character, the larger-than-life character, to remind him of that. Okay? So whatever that is, you can come with a name for yourself or something, but it's what they identify you as. The other thing that's interesting about this is when I get, and I encourage this, is that when I get emails from people, sometimes they'll start out, hey, King, here's what I want to talk to you about. So I'll reprint that. Hey, King. And so what that does is it encourages the people to address the attractive character. Okay? Hey, King. All right? Now, sometimes they say John, and that's fine, but I'll put that in there because it makes them feel like that they are talking to a celebrity. Because that's really what you're doing with this whole thing, is that you're making yourself a celebrity within your own list, within your own niche. And when people view you as a celebrity, they treat you as a celebrity. Okay, and what do they do with celebrities? They buy them free stuff, and there's lots of money, and good-looking girls, and all that stuff. But anyways, if they view you as a celebrity, they treat you as a celebrity. And you'll know that when you've done this right, is if you're talking to someone on the phone that you're doing a consultation with, you meet them in person, is they'll say, "Oh my God, I feel so honored to talk to you." Well, you should. Sometimes I'll do that. But I'll do it with a little bit of fun. But you also got to behave like they expect you to behave, okay? You cannot be incongruent. So it's up to you to behave as the attractive character would behave, okay? So behave to your customers when they're interacting with you as they would expect you, because if you don't, if there's that incongruency, then they're very disappointed, okay? They don't want to find out that you're not who you appear to be, all right? So put the attractive character in there. On the PS or PPS, I always put a PS there. It's just an oh, by the way. It's a little bitty classified ad that just drives into a sales website. And then what I do is I always have a little signature that rides along that says, hey, all my email archives are on my johnalanis.com list, which drives them to that list so they can go read old emails and stuff. And, of course, there just might be a few banners and sales letters and links and other ways for them to give me money. Okay? But the thing about that purpose is it drives them back, it gets them involved, they get started involved in reading old episodes and stuff, and so they'll buy something. So it's a real powerful way to drive traffic back to a website. And I'll have a few disclaimers back there. All right, let's a couple more things. I'm going to show you some examples, and then we're getting close to time here. We'll have a little homework for you. Purpose of your morning email is to build and increase a relationship with your customers. I use Aweber currently. I've also used iContact. Email is not especially great right now, but still with this strategy, I'm able to get it delivered and opened, to a large percentage of my subscribers. Also, there's a service called Delivery Monitor. Some of y'all may be familiar with it. It's an Aweber service. If you're not using it, go get it. It's a seed list that you can put in, and what it does is it shows you if you're getting any blocked to any IP ad to any large ISPs like AOL, Google, Hotmail, some of that stuff. And that thing has saved my butt 4 or 5 times. DeliveryMonitor.com. If you're not using it, go use it. Okay? Delivery Monitor is a very good system. All right, let's get it. I want to show you fellas some examples here. We're running out of time. All right. Subject. Here's an example of my morning email, and it is in your handouts. Seduction Secrets of the Pink Panther. It's a good subject line. It's going to get that thing open and read. It's for me. You start out, hey guys, before I get started, I'd like to, give a shout out to everyone who agreed to me to talk. So I tell them a little bit of a personal story here. And this was actually tied to a current event. When they released the Pink Panther, the updated one with Steve Martin, I went and saw it. I thought it was a pretty funny movie, so I went and rented the original 1964 version of the Pink Panther. And that's a little bit different movie from the one that Steve Martin had. Okay, yeah, it's a comedy, but any guy that's interested in learning how to attract women needs to go watch that movie, because the star of that movie is not Peter Sellers in Inspector Clouseau. It's David Niven. And I watched that movie. I said, oh, so she's nodding back there. She remembers David Niven. Yeah. I said, and you guys that want to go learn how to be an attractive man, you go pay attention to this guy. He's an old playboy who seduces a very young woman in there who pretends to not be interested at first in that. I said, man, you got to go watch that movie. And so it's a very timely, email that ties into a current event. Okay, one reason why it gets open was the Pink Panther was all over the news, so it's tied into a current event. So we see here's the offset advertisement, little classified ad. I replaced the word advertisement and I put success resource or recommended resource now instead of that. I think it helps a little bit, but I offset it so they can see it, so they don't, so they know if they want to read an ad, it's an ad. And then I talk, I go ahead and put the body in there, tell the story, sign off on the bottom with the on with the fun, sign my name, have my little tagline. Then I have a PS, which is actually, this is actually setting them up for a particular sale or product launch that I'm doing. If you look at the important note, and it is an important note, this drives into my johnalanis.com website blog to get them to buy more stuff. And then I have the copyright and the canned spam stuff all the way down there. So that's a morning email. All right, afternoon email is a compelling subject line. This is a little more salesy. This is real hard, traditional lead generation copywriting. Think like you're writing a little bit of a postcard. And so what it does is I'm not trying to sell something in the email. I'm driving them to a website that does all the selling for me, which is a long copy, well-written sales letter. And so here's a really good email. This one was, every time I use it, it's always been very successful. Subject line, chase or attract, which do you prefer? That's a good one. And I usually like to use first name, and these I'll personalize them sometimes, Dear Joe Blow or Dear Joe. And so now we've got some real good copywriting here. There's an opening sentence. There's nothing more frustrating than wondering if a woman likes you than pursuing her, trying to get her to notice you, even date you. How does it usually end? By going off with a guy who she was attracted to, a guy who never showed any interest in her at all. Why would she do this? Because the guy who supposedly showed no interest actually knew how to create attraction, and she came to him instead of him chasing her. Trust me, that's a much better way to go for both men and women. If you'd like to discover how to stop chasing and start attracting, then simply go to this website and discover how to get women to approach you first, no matter your looks, age, or income. On with the fun. Now, it's a short message, but what's in the message is a lot of stuff that I know from my subscribers. Because a lot of these guys have had problems with is they see a woman, they wonder if she likes them, and then, they know they're a nice guy, but she goes and chases off after another guy. Why does this happen? And it drives them crazy. Well, I have the solution for that, okay? But you got to go buy and give me. And so this taps into the feedback that I'm getting with, from my customers. And so that's kind of the mechanics of a morning email. There's also some other. We're getting up toward the end here, and I got some homework to pass out for y'all. So I'm just going to give you a very brief overview of some of these emails. You can go read them yourself. There's a whole bunch of samples. But these are different types of emails at morning and afternoon that I do. Straight content, try to get solicitation of feedback for them to respond to me. Then there's a personal story that teaches a lesson. Success stories. Success stories are powerful. Whenever I get one, I send it right out, and I make sure and identify the guy who succeeded as a doer. Whenever I got a lot of women on my list too, by the way, and so I solicited a lot of feedback from them. And so whenever I get something that a woman has to say, I'll send it out because one of my guys like to hear from it, but it encourages other women to write in. And there might just be a benefit to having a large email list full of women that are interested in what you have to say, but I would know nothing about that. Testimonial contest. If y'all want to know how to get testimonials, this email right here is a fantastic email to knock off. Because what it does is when they know they're competing and they're getting a prize, you'll get some fantastic testimonials from people. Okay? Some fantastic testimonials. So you can knock that one off right there. Another testimonial contest email. Last one I'll tell you about, then we're going to talk about the homework, is one of my favorites. The anti-refunder email. Because I hate refunders. I make refunds now. I despise them, but I make them. Fast, immediate. And the reason that you do that is almost everybody that's gotten in trouble in the information marketing, direct marketing business has done so because of not making refunds. All right? And so what this does is it's an anti-refunder email. that pretty much slams them and makes them know that they're talkers instead of doers, and if you refund, you're a talker, not a doer. This thing actually works. The first time I sent it out, I was like, man, am I going to get a lot of people that are angry? They're going to opt out of my list? I don't know about this. But let me test it to see, because if I can cut the refund rate just a little bit, net profit goes up. I sent it out, and the response was overwhelmingly positive, because it comes back to you're saying something other people think about but they won't say. So I got a lot of business owners saying, yeah, it's about time, John. I feel the same way you do. Then dang refunders, here's my experience, this and that. Right on you go. So it's actually very powerful, and it decreased refunds, okay? Because it shows that, I'm not going to tolerate some of what these guys do. So that's a real powerful one to knock off. All right, let's get to the homework that's being passed out before I go over time here. I'm about right on time. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something unusual. And this is the first time that I've done this, so you're all going to be guinea pigs. But I think you're going to like this. What this is what we're passing out is a sales letter. It's a rough draft that I wrote for a product that my friend Ryan Dice and I put together several months ago. And it's a rough draft because if you look at the last page, it's blank. And the second to the last page, there's a part in there that says, insert bullets for Ultimate List Building Boot Camp here. So this thing is a rough draft. Okay. And what it is between you and me is a sales letter that sells a product that teaches online marketers how to do offline marketing, okay? But it's my belief and Ryan's belief that a lot of online marketers are deathly afraid of offline marketing, and if we mention anything about that in this letter, it's going to scare them off. So this letter is absolutely as blind as a bat, all right? It's a good opportunity letter. What I'm going to do for tomorrow's presentation is I want you all to read this letter tonight. Now, this is not a copywriting lesson, actually, although indirectly you'll see some good copy in here. So what I want you to do is read this letter tonight. And then what I'm going to do is, since these bullets are blind, and with some of the agitation that's going on in the front, which of these 17 instant internet profit killers are stealing money from you right now, is I'm actually going to go through and I'm going to talk to you about what these are. Now, yeah. Well, you're going to get, it's coming around. There you go. Wait, and you shall receive. The king always delivers. You got that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some of these blind bullets, and I'm actually going to tell you what they are. So I'm actually going to teach from the sales letter and teach from the manual, and deliver you some really good actionable information about how to do offline marketing, okay? Because remember, I am primarily an offline marketer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reveal some of the bullets and some of the strategies that if you're doing any offline marketing right now, you can put to work immediately to increase your business, okay? So I'm going to teach from this letter and hopefully give you all some good information. And there also too, what's going around is an insert with this letter, actually some bank statements that I've scanned in, as well as an order form, because Ryan and I are going to be doing a product launch in a couple of months and using this thing. But it needs to be cleaned up a little bit first. So that's what I'm going to do. And also the possibility exists that I might just make you an offer tomorrow. But I'm not yet decided on that, so I'll think about that. But what I want you to do is read this over, and tomorrow's presentation, bring it with you, because I'm going to go through this bullet by bullet, line by line, and I'm going to tell you everything that's in there. And anything that you're doing that's offline marketing right now, or you have an online list and want to take it offline, is I'm going to teach you exactly how to do all of that with the least risk possible and the least hassle possible. Because I balance my business. We call it the fusion marketing system, because it's a fusion between online marketing and offline marketing. And I have no problem getting up there saying that I do a pretty good job between balancing, the both. I mean, there's some guys that may do a better offline job, and there's some guys that do a much better online job. I mean, there's some geniuses out there. But combining the two, I do a pretty darn good job with that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach all of y'all how to do that. So it's been a pleasure speaking with you. I will be around throughout the whole event. If you'd like to come speak with me, you're certainly welcome to. Very happy to answer any questions while I'm at an event. My time is available. And so thank you very much, and thank you for having me, Russell.